Call the budget committee meeting of
28.
2025. And first thing we'll do roll call. Pam Smith,
Here.
Joe Paul here. Steve Nesbit,
Here.
Carol Wag,
Here.
Lisa Strubing,
Here.
Chris Parent.
Here.
And Heidi Watson is excused. You all should have had minutes in front of you. I don't know if you want to review those now. Heidi did orange.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, losing some ink there. It's all right. I can make it out.
So I guess I just have a little issue on page 1 of 325. Yeah. Questions? I have nothing now in reserve. We did use some money of the money to cover the coverage.
Yeah, those are the questions. So those aren't meeting minutes.
No. That's what it, the questions, right?
Yeah, we already
Yeah.
discussed that. It wasn't the best. So
It wasn't what?
yeah, we already discussed that.
This is the first time I'm seeing this.
Yeah.
So I just have an issue, I guess, with, I actually think I have some. So the think and I don't remember. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but this is my problem. We are charged with making decisions. And it's really hard for me, and I won't speak for anybody else here because I don't know, but it's really hard for me to sit here and make a transparent decision when we get, I think, don't remember, or not enough information in the budget. So I don't know, when we put our stuff together, if we can make a recommendation as we have in years past, that these things be corrected before they come to a budget committee, because it's really hard. I mean, we are 7 elected officials sitting here trying to do a job for our residents that's becoming cumbersome because we don't have the information.
I'm planning on putting that down as a separate recommendation.
Please.
Of
And we
what
have in years past. I know
budget
Steve has
should-
been diligent about that as well.
I think I saw it in last year's
Thank you.
recommendations or somewhere I saw it.
I'm fine with moving the meeting minutes for March 27th forward.
I sent that, yeah.
Can you read the second page? I can't read this.
Yeah, it's very faint, but it
It's-
says, the question was the law enforcement, when we
Right.
recommended 4B postponed a year.
Not passed.
Yes, Steve requested to revisit the vote. I seconded it. We revoted 3 yes, 2 no. The motion failed because it says we needed more votes.
Okay.
That's what that one was.
Yeah, we weren't sure
Yeah.
at the time if we needed 4 or 3.
Right,
I
okay.
think
And
the chair got a clarification on that.
I checked today and town council needs 4 votes to pass.
Anything. Pass anything.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Town council.
we only need the majority of members here. So last night was 5, so there was a 3-2 vote. And that will stay as a, is it a yes?
It was a yes.
Yes, it was yes, so.
So
that-
that means when the council voted to raise their pay and it was a 3-2 vote, that failed.
Town
They
council-
thought it passed for that meeting that we were at.
Was it 3-2 or 4-1?
4-1.
I think it was
Uh,
4-1.
It was 3-1 because there were only 4
Right.
people here that night.
Ah,
But that was for amendment. The overall approval of the section was 4-0. So
Okay.
that's how they went about it.
Wasn't 5?
That night for that, there were only
4.
There were only 4 people present during that. That was the all-day hearing, and there were only 4 people there.
Okay.
So that's how they did it on that. So, but that's how they did it.
Okay.
But I think we should, even though we shouldn't go back and accept the votes. We should go back to those and redo them because we have other members here.
But what I was told today is because we already did it, voted once, then that's all we could do.
Okay.
Couldn't go back.
So it was on the law enforcement section.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So, and what, I can't read this. I can't really remember what we voted on.
We voted on moving car 454 because it only had 71,000 miles on it, or 74. We voted on moving it out a year instead of purchasing it next year,
So
so
we-
that it hit the 120,000.
So we have approved
Yeah, we
that as a recommendation.
recommendation based on what Joe got it for information. Yes. We had a motion to move the minutes, but do people need more time? We had a motion and a second.
Or maybe we should just hold off until we get maybe another printout with a different color so people can read it more clearly. I mean, I can make out what we read, but it's not easy for everybody.
I'm good with that if that's what people want. So do we need to make a motion to hold on the minutes?
Make a motion to. I don't think we need to make a motion.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
just hold
think
on 'em?
We can
Okay.
Just hold off on them.
Okay. So we still need to do revenue. We want to do revenue, or do we want to do a quick run through of what I have for moving forward and amendments? We need to do that.
When we do revenue, are we gonna possibly change things?
Yep.
Okay, so then maybe we should do revenue first then. 'Cause then we'll have an idea of where revenue is at before we go back and look at everything else.
Okay?
But if that's not logical, if it's faster to do it the other way, or more efficient. All right, I'm good with revenue first. Then we've hit everything, right?
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay, we're doing it first, Steve.
Oh yeah, I
Okay.
think that's fine. Yeah, that's where we were headed last meeting. So I think it's
Line by line.
good. You betcha. It's just 10 after 6 now, so I got some stuff and I got some things to say.
So once we go through revenue and we go back through, we can change things. We've already voted on some of those, but we can rechange those, correct?
Well, if we're allowed one revote per. I don't know what the rules are.
I think
Go ahead. It's,
it's,
we've already moved everything.
we've moved things forward, so it really depends. If you, I mean, certainly we don't want to open up all the same discussions over
No.
there. So if you look at it and say this section was voted for and closed, someone who voted in the favor would have to ask for a reconsideration of the vote.
Right.
There would have to be a second, and then there would have to be an approval to reconsider the vote, and then it opens it back up to discussion all over again.
Okay.
Um,
I don't want to beat a dead horse. I just want to make
Right.
sure that we're, if we have
I mean-
questions or wanted to change something.
we did go through a lot, so we have to keep things moving forward.
Right.
Revenue.
Okay. Excise taxes, vehicles. Estimate is 2,200,000. Excise taxes for boats, 25,000. Automobile reimbursement, 3,700. State revenue sharing, 1,374,479. Road assistance, 190,000.
Can I just make a comment about the state revenue sharing, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Does everyone know where that comes from? How the finance director put that number in?
No, it's an estimate from the state, but.
Right, so the state will publish on the treasurer's website, state treasurer's website, an estimated revenue sharing. And it generally will happen the end of February, early March. So that's always good to go to the state website and look this up. It'll be an Excel spreadsheet that you can click the link on. Generally, the finance director is constantly going to this while he's going through the budget. And then he looks up what it is for the town of Standish and he puts that in there. It is not always there when he's doing the budget. So it's good for us. I look at it periodically through the budget. I did not get a chance to go and look at it today. But I have looked at it and verified that that number is the most current number as of last week. They do revise it at times, but generally if they've put it in, let's say beginning of March, it doesn't usually change. They may change it in May, but we always go with what's in March. But there are times where they put it out late, and the budget committee has made the change because of the late, because it was our thing to make it late. Now, it wasn't liked the last time we did it because the revenue sharing dropped, and it was not a unanimous vote to accept it. But I think the finance director said we need to accept it because that's what we always use, and it's the most accurate number. But that's where I go to look at that is from the state treasury website. And just look up. You can Google revenue sharing state of Maine. 2025 or in that, and it'll take you to the website to that Excel spreadsheet, and you'll see the number there.
Thank you.
Where was I? Local road assistance, 90,000.
Is that from the state as well?
Yep.
No, local road assistance was 190,000. Tree growth reimbursement, 90,000.
And
Veterans tax loss reimbursement, 6,000. FEMA reimbursement, there wasn't any. Renewable energy reimbursement, 99,555. And I didn't have a question, I just had something marked.
For the renewable
It's
energy.
new.
Yeah,
It's a new item, so I asked him with the way that the administration is hacking everything, is that something that we can be certain of? And I don't remember where he said he got the estimate from. And he said he would be fine, taking it down half or setting it to zero, but I don't know if zero was a serious thing. But because it's brand new and it's brand new with this administration, I'm leery of $99,000. So I would be fine actually lowering that. But I don't know if it's gonna make a big difference with what we've already got in the budget.
Well, if you drop it by $100,000 in theory, then it because this is intergovernment revenue, that puts the burden on the property tax rate.
Gotcha.
So if we don't feel it's going to come there, then it goes to the property taxes. So that comes from the taxpayer.
That is unfortunate.
So that's the difficult decision. Now, looking at audits from several years, the town has generally always had revenues outpace some expenditures.
That's good.
I'm not, I'd have to really go back and look at all the audits and look at this past audit. But
Well, just because it's a new item doesn't mean it's not going to be something that the town struggles to collect. I mean,
right.
they're representing that they expect to get the 99 plus thousand.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, I don't see that we have any reason to doubt that.
My only concern was because it's new with this new administration who is cutting everything. That was my only concern, is overestimating it. I did not know that if we take out from the intergovernmental revenue that taxpayers make that up. That I was not aware of that. That being said, I'm okay leaving it as is. He's been doing this for a while. He knows what he's doing. All right.
I think if we count on what's going to happen with this new administration, we're going to be in real big trouble to begin with. So we have to go with the figures as they are and then possibly have to deal with it later on in the year when, particularly with school budget, the Department of Education is going to be eliminated. But supposedly, there are going to be some real problems in the future. I think we can count on that. Just saying.
So that was the only mark for the renewable
Yeah.
energy.
I'm fine keeping it in here. I know there's a doubt, but it's new, and we do have a lot of solar in the town and so forth. So
okay. General assistance reimbursement, 48,321.
It's gone down.
Went down the year before last.
Mhm.
Oh,
It's gone down considerably.
EETE reimbursement,
Eddie,
What is that?
it's business.
Ah,
$35,015. Homestead exemption reimbursement. $573, $680.
Yep. That's pretty much, if I can speak to it a little bit.
Sure.
It's pretty much a formula driven. If you were to look at the finance revenue control report from 725, you'll see that we have 71% in the receive 71% from the state. The last remaining 25% won't happen until after the fiscal year, which the finance committee, that the finance director will put back into this fiscal year. So that's how the state does it. You get 75 cents in a big lump or a big block, and then you don't get anything until after the end of the fiscal year, and then you get the remaining for it. So if you ever say, "Oh, we only got 71%," well, it does come back. So generally, it will even out to be that number, because the finance director works with the assessment, the head of assessment, and it's a pretty solid number.
Total for that was $2,420,750. Moving down to licenses and permits. Dog licenses, $4,000. Building permits, $250,000. CEO consulting fees, $2,000.
Pretty much a pass-through fee, so it's a washout fee.
Okay. Marriage permits, 2,500. Burial permits, 50. Municipal permits, $4,000. Plumbing permits, $25,000. Septic permit, $25. Advertising fees, $500. Gravel pit inspection fees, $10,000.
And that's a pass-through fee.
Right. Recycling revenue, $26,000. Transfer station user fees, $90,000. Transfer station sticker fees, $95,000. Sport licenses, RV agent fees, $3,000. Medical marijuana retail store, $1,000. Medical marijuana caregiver, $500. For a total of $513,575.
I have a question on the building permits and the septage. The building permits, does that include all the new apartment buildings that are going up, or were those already collected? Because they're talking about how all the huge growth that's coming in was that in?
That those probably haven't been collected. They need to start the construction, so they'll get some fees to the planning board. But once you start building, then there's permits to
Oh, okay.
do
So
the construction.
the only part of that will probably happen this coming year. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Charges for services, passport service, 15,000. Motor vehicle agent fees, 40,000. Town birth certificate, 2,000. Town birth certificate additional, 500. Town death certificate, 1,000. Town death certificate additional, 2,000.
So just a question, what is the difference?
I think one is getting an original death certificate, and the other one is to get a duplicate.
Okay. Sense.
But why is the additional cost? I guess it doesn't really matter, but
Hmm.
I said, I'm wondering why, like a death certificate, $1,000.
You need a death certificate for
sometimes
each
you need
insurance company.
For insurance companies and send them to life insurance companies,
Yeah.
send them to
Everyone you're
various
collecting.
Yeah, I
from.
suppose
places.
it would be that one, but
Yeah,
I haven't done that, so.
I have.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, that is a good thing.
Marriage certificate, $1,000. Town marriage certificate additional, 500. Animal control fees, 800.
Now we have a divorce certificate.
I guess you don't
You
need
get
them.
that, you get that from the court.
Nobody gets
Your
divorced.
divorce
with
judgment.
Standish.
Yeah, but we got to get that in there.
Yeah.
I mean, we're missing an opportunity there.
If the town took control of it, you could.
No, I think we got to think about that somehow.
Office fees, 5,000. Boat launch services, 25,000. Planning board, 50,000. Cable TV, 120,000. Impact fees, 65,000. Impact fees, recreation, 335,645. And impact fees, public safety, 194,648. Appeals board, 800. Non-EMS public safety fees, 500.
Can I ask a few questions, Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Planning board, 50,000. Planning board brings in revenue? Or is it just attributed to them because they push things forward? I don't know how that works.
I don't know why they have revenue.
It's more the planning department
Oh, planning department.
is more, I think,
Right.
truly where that is.
Okay. And then that makes more sense. Cable TV, I'm not going to ask about. I did last year.
What's the revenue from?
From what? The cable TV?
Yeah.
Residences that have Spectrum.
The town gets,
A portion. Oh, it's a formula driven. So it probably won't get changed, but we never get based off of the formula that we're told to use that amount of money. So it's always short, from what I believe. Because when I'm looking so far this year, like last year, we budgeted 125,000. So far through July, we received 30,000. So it's a low. It always seems to be low, but I think the finance director will say it's a formula based thing, and this is the formula that drives it. And I know we tried to do it, but it's kind of. I think it's kind of a. We'd have to ask him, but I think it's kind of a state type of formula. To say this is how you will calculate your.
Yep. So if households can't afford their cable TV and they have to cut cable TV, then that portion of the Spectrum money doesn't get paid to Standish. That was my understanding from last year.
It's got to be based on users.
Yeah. And then,
Based on user.
and then the impact fees, and then impact fees recreation, and impact fees public safety. What are those? I have them oranged out. I remember hearing part of a conversation, but it didn't really sink in.
I have written down impact fees for roads.
I have impact fees for roads, but
Oh.
what are the impact fees? What is that revenue coming from? That's from the building of things?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So the impact fees for roads has been around for a long time.
Okay. And
The
then,
impact fees for recreation and public safety, those are the new ones that were just enacted in, I think, January.
all right,
So if you were to go to the code, it's not in the code book yet, but the order is in the code book. I think I hooked you up with that
you did.
order. And those impact fees can be used. So there's an order, or there'll be in a code that impact fees can go towards capital projects for recreation, and capital fees can go towards capital projects for public safety. So that's why when we were talking about capital projects, we had the full amounts in the bonds, but they believe that with all of the growth in the permits, that these impact fees that will get collected, I forgot what they were saying, 6,000 per lot, permit lot, will build up and can offset those bonds, so we don't have to go out and take the full amount of the bonds.
Okay. All right. And then, so the impact fees, they come in just one big bulk revenue and they're just divvied out by percentage or by algorithm that they have set up. So currently, those are the only 3 slots that are gonna.
Those are the only 3 impact fees that are that have been approved to be used.
Thank you. Thank you for clarification.
Yep. And I think after this year, we'll have a better understanding of what that will come. I think it's an estimate that the finance director, the town manager, the planning director, and the assessor came up with probably all together to make an assumption because it's so new. But they're basing that off of what they see will happen with permits and so forth in the town this coming year.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
It's a very good thing for the town to do.
Any other questions?
As you're going through, I'm looking at the expense report for 725, and I think these numbers really align with the current revenues that we're seeing in the current fiscal year.
Okay. Well, we can stop. Right?
I haven't gotten to my section yet.
Okay. We'll continue with miscellaneous service revenue, $4,000. EMS revenues, including intercept revenues, $521,376. EMS subscription fees, $35,000. EMS services, $114,004.
What's the difference between the EMS revenues and services? Other than the dollar amount, where does that revenue come from?
That I don't remember the exact offhand. I'm just wondering, I don't know if anyone talked about why the big increase in EMS services. If anyone had any notes on that. Because that's a big change. And I'm not seeing that big change reflected in at least the current fiscal year.
Are these revenues charged to the people that are transported for EMS services?
That's what I'm wondering, if one's maybe transports and one is showing up, but they don't need to be transported.
Did they say
I mean, they're two very different.
intercept is when another town doesn't have availability, so like we would go in.
Right.
They
So
would
that
pay
would be an
us.
intercept revenue
Yep.
that we would gain.
So that's where-
'cause-
And that's
us
probably
helping
it's
others.
probably a transport, yes.
Yes.
So what I would imagine the EMS services down.
Right, EMS services may be if
Shall
they
we-
need to go to help someone up.
or
No
or
help
transport.
another town.
Yeah.
They may be increasing this because now we'll be fully staffed.
Yeah.
Full-time, fully staffed, completely 24 hours a day now.
They can go out and do more runs.
Possibly that's what they're looking at there. But I don't know. I can't remember if that was discussed when they went through revenues.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back and rewatch the tape.
I didn't make a note, so
And pick it up.
summer rec. Recreation doesn't have to be summer. And that's last year they approved 20,000 for the spectacular, but now recreation pretty much pays for itself.
Right, that's
with
all in,
fees.
yeah. In the summer spectacular there, you're seeing what would be the donations coming in.
Right.
So they're estimating by 20,000 in donations.
Memorial Beach. Beach passes 20,000. Boating club fees 8,000. Rich Memorial Beach. Other income none. For a total of 28,000. Penalties and interest. Tax and lien interest 33,000. Lien notice fee 12,000. Ordinance fines 100. Other revenue, investment interest 90,000. Sale of materials, property, nothing. Leases and rentals 17,000. Donations 100. Miscellaneous revenue 500. ENC insurance refund 4,000. MMA workers' comp refund 5,000. MMA unemployment compensation refund none. MMA insurance reimbursement not. I have a question. Anyone knows what's PNC?
I was going to ask you.
Property and casualty.
Property and what?
insurance.
Property and casualty.
Okay. Use of surplus 500. Proceeds from bonds 2,885,331.
That was changed to 2,902,
331.
331.
Yep.
So
was it changed to?
Oh, is that,
2,902,331.
thought that was 2 million.
Yep.
It's not.
It's
That
two
should be
million
in the
nine.
new
Oh,
thing.
okay.
Okay.
That reflects the capital that we approved.
For the financing source, nothing. ARPA funding, nothing.
So if I can just speak to a couple of those items.
Yep.
So the other finance source, that would have been from the TIF districts. So I know originally they thought they were using some expenditures of TIF money. They are not using any TIF money for expenditures this year. So that's why you don't see any other financing sources here, and it's 0. It would be nice to see it as TIF, a separate line, calling it out as TIF like we do for impact fees. And then the use of surplus, that's taking money out of the general fund to help offset the mill rate. If I can have a second. One of the sheets that I always like to print out, and I asked to have to print out, is from the audit. And it's usually the current year financial highlights. And there is a general fund policy in the town. And the policy maintains an unassigned fund balance in the general fund at a range between 2/12 or 3/12 of the approved appropriation of the municipal budget. So it's basically saying 2 to 3 months they want to have cash on hand. And I know the finance director is kind of squinting his eyes right now because it's not necessarily cash worth of expenditures. So basically add a snapshot of June 30th, 2024. We had appropriations of $32,043,835. So that created a target range of $5,341,707 to $8,010,959. So that's the 2 to 3 months. So at that year end, June 30th, 2024, our fund balance was $5,825,876. So we were $484,169 above that limit. Still, with that, they are proposing to take $500,000 out to offset this budget. So most likely, in previous year it was $800,000. I've never in my time here seen $800,000. So it went down to $500,000. That means the general fund, to help offset, raised the mill rate by 30,000, or that 30,000, that 30-cent increase had to go towards property taxes to pay for that. So I think based on this, unless we have a really good current year with revenues and low expenses, that fund balance will probably look to drop below that range. And then the town will need to react and have several years to get it back up into the range. So there is a good chance that next year use of surplus will go down even further or go down to 0, depending on how far it goes. So it's just, it goes down and then it can go back up. So, but that's how it works out. So.
Okay, so now without all of the dollar details, can you give me a layman explanation again without the exact dollar figures?
It's basically saying the use of surplus is taking out of that general fund balance to offset the mill rates, so it doesn't go on to the current property taxes of the homeowners.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
So if you're taking $500,000 out, you're really saying you're going to alleviate that mill rate probably about 50 cents. So if we were to take that out, you can almost look at the mill rate going up by 50 cents. So it's not something we want to touch.
Right.
But I'm just saying you can see that based off of where we are with the audit on the general fund balance, we're getting at the low end.
Mhm.
And unless that general fund balance increases at next year's audit, that use of surplus may decrease even further next year. So that means, what we approve this year, if we don't change it, could increase the mill rate on the taxpayer because the money's not there in that general fund.
Right.
So it's just always something I keep in mind.
Thank you.
500,000 is still a hefty amount to put in.
Mhm.
Many years it was always $100,000, $200,000. So
If we all set with page 4, move over to recreation revenue. Summer program, 249,000. Vacation week programs, 23,500. Youth sports, lost it, 25,500. Scholarship program, 2,500. Special programs, 40,500. Before and after school program, 326,800. Other funding sources, nothing. Adult senior programs, 63,500. Rentals and sponsors, 3,500. Use of contribution to fund balance, 16,672. And the total, 751,472.
Do we know what special programs are that's bringing in 40,000?
go to the special revenue fund. Look that up. If it sets it out.
Relighting, Jingle Bell Bash, concerts, Easter, Harvest Fest, Frightening Festival of Fun, enrichment programs, discount ticket programs,
What page are you seeing that on?
all on page 256.
Any other questions? Any changes anyone wants to make?
I'd approve of revenues as stated.
Yes. Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. go through these. I've got assessing, and we moved it 620.
With no amendments.
What's that?
With no amendments.
I was assessing.
And code enforcement, we moved that forward as amended. We got that as page 24. Maybe we do that?
Yep.
Okay. Added
1,000.
1,000 to the CEO vehicle. Move that. And general administration. Got that we moved it 6-0. And page 33.
Reduced by 7,000.
Gonna reduce grant matching funds by 7,000 down to 8,000. And then on page 41, we added 3,000. And that was 3,000 to move the chairs
From council contingency.
from council to, or I've got down four chairs for the town council chamber. And moved out of contingency. Cable television, moved it forward 5-1. And we moved laptops to
Page 47.
nope. Page 47. I've got, yeah, okay. It'll be in new equipment. We added 10,500.
For what?
10,500 to new equipment
Okay, we added.
for the laptops.
Right.
Okay.
So it'll be, but it was being taken out of council contingency.
Right.
Felt it was more appropriate to be there. I did not vote for it.
Town council. Moved it 6-0.
Was this with their amendment?
Two amendments. One, actually, it might be both the same. Contingency. 35,000, I think.
Did we also
No.
make an amendment on page 53?
First one was page 53. Salaries, that was dropped from 14,000 to 10,005. State is the same as what it has been. So the 14,000 was reduced by 3,500.
Thank you for that.
And then contingency.
Was put to 0. Because it was put into,
No, we dropped
Was-
contingency by 15,000, so
Right.
Yeah.
we
so
dropped
it's-
it by 13,500.
Right, for the chairs and the iPads.
We moved that to where?
So it went to two different places. It went to general administration and the cable because the chairs should go in the general and then the
Yep.
other one to cable.
Okay.
Right, the laptops went to
Mhm.
cable. Oh, just so I have this right. Contingency is gonna,
They're the same as last year.
Right.
okay,
Stay at 15.
yeah, that's what I've got, but I wanted to be sure.
Yep.
Yep.
Town clerk. I've got that as moving 6-0 with no amendments. Finance, I've got that moving 5-0.
That was as is, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Planning. I have it move forward as amended 5-1. The amended salaries. From
I don't think we did we?
Yep.
Yeah, planning board stipend, member stipends, we moved it from 3,000 to 8750.
750.
So that was 5,750.
We had
I did not approve. I wasn't.
thought I had something on training.
We did.
Page 85, yeah.
Have to reduce that by 25 on.
Yep.
Skills board. That moving 6-0 with no amendments. Building maintenance move 5-0. No amendment. Public safety. And that move forward 6-1. No amendment. Law enforcement. Move that forward. The recommendation of taking out 54
Or 54, yep, or 54.
and push it to next year.
So that was
Take-
a reduction of 98,000.
Yes.
454 was the one?
You reduced it by what?
98,000.
We have to specify that it was for the car and possibly the kit.
I think we said that in the notes, yes.
Yeah.
They can do what they want. but
I
we
think
can-
that's pretty much,
Standard at
you're
the
not
bottom.
gonna buy a kit.
Right. Yeah.
It's
But-
gonna-
But that's how we came with it. Yeah, we came up that said, we said 454 and they have it listed as one cruiser and a kit.
Yeah.
That's how they have it listed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so. General assistance. Move that 7-0. Public Works.
Reduce engineering services,
Yes.
25,000.
Page 139, engineering services. Drop from 65,000 to 40.
You dropped it by
No.
40.
We dropped it by 40 to
Dropped it
25.
by $40,000 minus from 65 to 25.
Okay,
Correct.
I got my numbers reversed. It is there.
And how did that pass?
7-0.
Thank you.
Solid waste. That was moved 7-0 without amendments.
Sure. Are you sure? You're right. It is. That's
You made the motion.
I did. You did.
I was going to say, I think you did.
Parks and Rec. Parks and Rec. Move 5-0 is amended. That'll be page 177. Recutting. Reduce that to 2,500.
So minus 5,000.
Rick Memorial Beach. I think I missed something because I don't have it moving forward.
I think we had a question on Rich Memorial Beach.
I had it down as moving forward.
We had a question of what?
Oh, yeah, no, I have it as we passed it too. We had a question, but it wasn't a hold-up question.
Right.
Right.
It's just to
Yeah.
clarify.
So I guess that we're gonna have to vote on it now.
I think
Unless
we already
someone
did
has,
On it?
you have,
We voted on, yeah.
on the 27th. It was 5-0.
Yep.
okay. Donations.
That was amended.
This one will be amended.
What was that vote?
For donations.
Yeah. I mean, what was the count?
It was 5-0 when we passed it.
What was the total we came up with for donations?
You asked that last time.
I have 88,700.
So
And I wrote down 87,000.
So we,
Total.
I don't
we
know if
dropped
that
it
was-
to,
We dropped it from 98,150 is what they had to, we dropped it 9,450.
okay, so
So the final is 88,700.
That's what we have on our
700.
paperwork, yep.
okay.
Well, if we start with cemetery associations,
So this was just a drop. We didn't tell them where to cut.
No, we were specific.
Okay.
Dropped 200 from Maplewood on page 201.
Yep, Maplewood Cemetery was 4-1 vote to drop $200 from $700 back down to $500.
right?
There was no change for the Richville Library or the Steep Falls Library.
Well, the rest of the cemeteries.
Yeah, there were no changes on the cemeteries. Other cemeteries,
that
they
one,
stayed the
right?
same. That was the only one that was changed.
Right.
And that was, the cemeteries were moved forward on 327 with a 4-1 vote. Richville Library was passed as is with a 5-0 vote on 327 with 4,300. Steep Falls Library was passed on 327 with a 5-0 vote at 20,000.
So Richville Library was 4,300, not 4.
The council proposed is 4,300.
Okay. I just okay. I
So
just
you-
got
yeah,
my
you-
new paperwork, so I
Yeah,
don't have
so
it
you
in
don't
here.
have the right paperwork.
Yeah, because they had some work that was gonna be done, they dropped.
Okay.
They withdrew that amount.
You go to, is it okay if I just read these?
Yeah,
I've
go
got
ahead.
them, because I've got the notes. I think you've got the new
My
sheets.
throat's getting-
Okay, so if we go to provider agencies on page 204,
I'd like to finish this out.
so page 204, Opportunity Alliance
Mm-hmm.
was dropped $1,500. So the total donation would be $1,500. That was approved by a 4-1 vote. Through These Doors was dropped $1,250 to $1,250. That was a 5-0 vote. The Fuller Center of Housing was dropped $1,500 from $5,000 to $3,500, and that was a 4-1 vote. The trash disposal was still kept for the Fuller Housing. So with those three changes, it was a 5-0 vote approval on 327.25.
And what? I didn't hear you say life flight.
Life Flight stayed the same. We didn't change anything. That was at $500 by the council.
They had already dropped it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
all set.
So then we go to miscellaneous associations. The only change at miscellaneous association was the Old Red Church. That was dropped to $5,000. That was dropped from $20,000 to $15,000, or a drop of $5,000. But in there, we'll be suggesting that they use $5,000 from their hasty fund. That was a 4-1 vote. Here. And then,
Oh,
yeah, it's just between him and me. And After that, we approved miscellaneous associations with a 5-0 vote on 32725.
Miscellaneous, where is?
So they requested
Okay, and we dropped it to
15,000,
15,000.
but asking the town to use 5,000 from the hasty fund.
And there's a, somewhere it tells you what hasty fund is.
Yeah, yeah, Steve told us.
I think answers
Yep.
from 25th.
So donations was passed 5-0 on 32725.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
If we keep going, we have capital outlay. That was approved 7-0 on 32527. And we have a amendment on page 210. Drop the major equipment reserve by 25,000 to 0. And that was a 7-0 vote. And that will take us to employee benefits, which we have put on a hold. We went through everything. We didn't make any amendments as yet, but there were questions with regards to 217 on how the FICA Medicare was calculated. And I don't think we got, a new question was proposed this morning,
Yep.
but I don't think we got any new information. I think,
I haven't seen a response.
yeah, I think the chair is checking to see if we got a response from our finance director.
We haven't got,
It's Friday.
Oh, right, they're not open.
Yep, but yeah, if I would make the same, if they're a director,
I get it.
job is to,
I know
they're a salaried position, so.
I get it. I
work
answer my
budget.
phone on the weekend.
So, so no new information came on that. So how do we want to proceed with employee benefits?
do you want to still put a hold on that, Chris? I don't know if you're gonna get a different,
No, I mean, I think that it's good information to have. I don't know if it's going to change anything, but,
Right.
but at this point,
This is the answer.
there's just,
This is the answer. Chris's calculations were not totally correct.
No, we got, I'm
You got
sorry,
that?
yeah, we got that, and
Okay.
we
We
wanted
spent-
more clarification on
sent
it.
a new,
Oh,
Chris sent it, well, Chris sent me one this morning and I forwarded it to Scott.
Okay.
So that,
all right. I didn't see that. Sorry.
I won't be here to see the answer other than,
Yeah.
but
So-
it's,
I think it's,
it's like up to you, sort of up to you.
it's, his responses so far have not answered the questions.
Yep.
And it's a fairly large number. So I think we're due clarification on how they're arriving at that number. Because there's several elements to it, and as you saw from my email, and I think we should get clarification. I mean, it may be very easily explained, but he hasn't explained it yet. That's where I am.
you feel that
So-
the number will be far off, that you would make an amendment. That kind of pressure, but if we hold off, we're probably due to the weather, we won't meet tomorrow. So we would schedule for Tuesday
Right.
is
Yeah.
when we would meet to revisit on this, to finalize it. Are you back by then?
No.
You can Zoom.
What do you have to do after that?
Have to write a report as to
Yeah,
what our
I
recommendations
have
are.
to do a report to the
Yeah.
council listing what we accepted as is and what our recommendations are for
Changes.
others. But I guess if you wanted to, do you have a figure that you think it should be?
No,
It's
not,
that the equations don't make sense. The
not
numbers
really,
don't-
because it's, well, you saw that my email.
Right.
Um,
I was just gonna say, you could make an amendment to, instead of 492,411, if you wanted to say, you think this number is high or low? Or,
I don't think it's even that really. It's that the equations that they were given don't add up to the request.
right,
So it's hard to approve a number
But-
when you don't know what the equation is. It might be correct and something is just missing,
but
but because we
he's,
don't know.
but he has shown the equation, not here, but in an email. I think, or was it, it may have been a question that we asked. And I know he had an equation that he said was used.
Well,
So I don't know if that's,
his initial equation on page 217 doesn't come to that number. That's what triggered my initial interest in, looking at it further. So, and then the last email indicated that that extra 1%
was for
for the
family
for
leave.
the new family leave, but the numbers show from 24 and the year to date 25 that they're already at that larger percentage. So
I think he needs to answer the question.
that's where it's hard to it's hard to arrive at any to make an amendment number when it's just
You
unknown.
can't just put a
I'm
random number.
just saying, I don't think his answer is really gonna change. He's gonna say, this is the formula we use, and
But that's the thing though, the formula didn't add up to the number. So
So if
that's
he,
where the clarifications were.
if he can show us the
I
formula
can
that,
ask that, but
yeah, he needs to show us a number, the formula that adds up to the number that he has in the book.
okay, so,
Otherwise, he needs to fix
so I
it.
guess we come back Tuesday for
Well,
one question.
yeah, but I guess I just feel that Mr. Perrin won't be here. And I've been looking at the previous budgets and that, and we are online for it, so I don't know how much it will change, and I understand what he's saying. I wish there was a
Right.
response today. There could have been.
Yeah,
There may have been to say, from this, it would have been great to maybe set up a phone call with you, because that's what I think is needed. I don't think an email response is necessarily going to answer your question. I think that's probably going to need a discussion, right? It would be the best thing to alleviate the situation.
Maybe I don't know.
So, I don't know if coming back to Tuesday will give the information to everybody. I'm fine with moving it forward as is.
Pam has to go.
I have to go. But I would second that, Steve.
So,
No? Jeez, thanks.
so if you could wait just a second, I'll make a motion to move employee benefits as, without amendments.
Yeah,
I
I mean,
second that.
All in favor?
Hasn't it forwarded the numbers
So we have a motion and a second to
It's
move,
not-
for what?
to
to
move it
move
forward?
benefits as stated.
Okay.
And all in favor? All opposed? One
I did.
in favor or opposed?
In favor.
Favor.
So that's 3 to
Aye.
3.
3-3, so it's on, it fails, so we'll have to schedule for Tuesday then.
And I've looked at the other ones in the future and I don't see any changes. So I'm okay with moving forward with those. I think there are 3 left.
Okay, so we'll have to come back and revisit employee benefits. The next section is insurance. Insurance was moved forward on 3/25/25 with a 7-0 vote. And that moved forward without any amendments. Safe travels.
Drive safe.
Next is debt services. That moved forward, yep, on with a 7-0 vote. We move, yeah, did we move debt services forward?
Yes.
Yep, okay.
I have yes.
I
It
just-
was unanimous.
Do you have a date for that? I have 3-3 and that can't be right.
No, it might have been.
The 12th, maybe? I was here for that one.
I made the motion, so Lisa and I were both here.
Yep.
Lisa seconded it.
Well, it was moved, it was a 7-0 vote without any amendments.
Yep.
I don't have a correct date in my book. Right? Transfers out, maybe it was 3-3, I don't know, I guess, because I've got 2. On transfers out, I have a 7-0 vote.
Yep, debt service was 325.
325, thank you. Why don't I have 3-3? Let me just go back and make that note
Wait a minute.
for me.
Debt services, what date?
325-25 for debt services, transfers out, 7-0 vote, 325-25. No amendments. And the special revenue fund, probably also 325. I just wrote 030325 without any changes.
That's what I have.
What was that vote? How many?
7-0 on 325-25
Changes.
Thank you.
with no changes on the recreation special revenue fund. And that puts us to capital projects, which is what we already moved forward. So the only outstanding item that we have right now is employee benefits. If I did my calculator right, going through, which I can't say that I'm 100% accurate, with the additions and subtractions, it was a total subtraction of $183,700.
182,700.
$183,700, with 98,000 of that being from the cruiser. So that was the main one, and then this major equipment reserve was 25,000. So there were a couple of bigger chunks with regards to reserves.
For the notes, I did not get the individual page votes or the individual page dates. I just have that insurance past 7-0. I didn't break down each individual page. for
I
the
think
notes.
that's fine. I think those were in the previous notes
Okay,
that Heidi had. We were just kind of going, I was just kind of reiterating what they were saying. So when the council handed us the budget, the mill rate had gone up 18 cents. So if they were to accept our recommendation, it looks like the mill rate may be static with the new SAD 6 if that got approved in Cumberland County. But I would have to plug in all of our numbers into the workbook to verify that. I'm a little leery about my 10,000 rule right now, if that still quite holds. That was the general thing on that.
All right.
Okay, I think we're done with business for tonight, unless any.
Not yet. We've got to postpone tomorrow's
Oh.
meeting to
Tuesday.
Tuesday
Tuesday
at
at
6 p.m. So
6.
I'd like to make a motion to propose that we postpone tomorrow's meeting, Saturday at 9 a.m. to Tuesday at 6 p.m.
I'll second that.
that.
Either way.
All in favor? Unanimous.
That was 5-0.
And then I would like to make a motion to go to bed.
Second.
Fun game.
All second, all in favor?